So next question is, can you explain the difference between murk, silica, and heparsol suppurative state?
I'll also try to talk a little bit about infection and suppuration at some point in the in the last part of the course. It's they are very different. Yeah, and you should also add calcareous sulf to that. Calcareous sulf, silica, hepar, mercury. These are the four very important. Of course, there are many more important remedies, but these are the important ones. Now, whenever you differentiate. One is clinically local symptoms, and you of course understand deeper symptoms, the mind state. The mind state, you clearly know mercury is a totally different remedy, silica is a totally different remedy, hepar is a totally different remedy. But how do you look at in an acute? This is something you want to know. Mercury, hepar, silica. First, we'll start with hepar. Hepar is very sensitive to touch. So when there is an abscess, very sensitive to touch, slightest touch, very sensitive, very often splinter-like pains, very chilly, very impulsive, very irritable, reminds you of nux vomica. This is hepar sulf. Hepar sulf is slightly more acute compared to silica. Silica is more obstinate abscess. Yes, obstinate abscesses, little bit more chronic, little bit more chronic, pus coming out. The area could be cold to touch, not as hot like hepar sulf. And generally, their hands and feet are very nervous and sweating. Silica, when you see mercury, I'll tell you, is will be an abscess, and you might have already given different remedies, and they'll be sweating. The peculiar thing is sweating doesn't relieve. Sweating doesn't relieve is such an important symptom of mercury. And of course, in mercury, you'll see repeated patterns of abscess, recurrent abscess, like tuberculinum, like cephalinum. Calcareous sulf, the vent is little open and there is pus and blood coming out, and you want to give high potency, and you can just open that entire abscess. Nash has written very nicely in his Materia Medica about calcareous sulf. When the vent is open, you give a higher potency and the whole pus will come out. And of course, there are many more remedies, and you can read about this from boric gunpowder. This is a remedy I use a lot when the abscess is around the bones, osteomyelitis. I had a case who had osteomyelitis with a lot of infection in the palms. I gave gunpowder 30 and his whole palm abscess got cured. Yes, when hepar and silica fails, one clinical specific remedy is Myristica sebifera. You could use it in 6 potency. You have to repeat it more often. So many more remedies. Anthraxinum. Lot of burning with abscess become hard and generally not better by hot application. Looks like arsenic. Very chilly. Tarantula cubensis, purplish hue, very restless, very sensitive to touch. Lacus is very sensitive to touch. Lacus is generally not as restless as tarantula. Lacus is generally not as painful as tarantula. Tarantula cubensis, not tarantula hispania. So this is a little bit of differential diagnosis that you want to remember. Um, Echinacea also a very important remedy with this abscess. Generally, they could have fever, no, with it, and it's very often very important local application. Echinacea with it. Eugenia jambos is a better remedy for acne and why acne with white spots and suppuration. I think I spoke about in one of the acne sessions. Eugenia jambos, Rajesh, read from N.M. Chaudhary. Very nicely he has written. Okay. Priyanka writes, sir, can you suggest any book to understand dreams of different remedies? There isn't a really very good book to understand this. The best is to read, start with Kent Repertory and read all the dreams from the Kent Repertory chapter of all the, in the sleep chapter of dream, in the sleep chapter, read all the dreams of, in the Kent Repertory, like, different dreams. That will help you a lot.